Yeah, there we go. Yes, hello everybody. Welcome back. I wasn't planning on doing a stream today, but after building the kit less than 24 hours ago, I've been doing a lot with it, and I really am excited about everything I've done. I wanted to share a lot with you guys, see what I've learned so far, and kind of what I'm going to do next with it, with the printer. So for those of you who missed the other streams, hold on one sec. Apologize. Mute. Uh, Finished the Prusa i3 MK2S kit last night. I don't remember what time it was last night, but we finished it last night and got the first print started. And we're getting everything dialed in. So I wanted to share with you what I've done so far to dial things in. So let me switch over to my part camera here. So oh, that's not it. There it is. All right, so sorry about the bad quality of this one. This is that camera that I was talking about that has the manual focus on it. So this is the very first thing that I printed with the Prusa i3 MK2S, and this is the Prusa logo here. So very reminiscent of what most 3D prints are going to look like. This wasn't printed with the highest quality settings, just whatever came on the SD card. So on the back here, I think I showed this a little bit last night. Now I made some notes on here about what date I printed it and what live Z I was at. And so I've done a couple more test prints since this one. So I'm going to push this one off to the side real quick, grab one of my test prints. I didn't write down what live Z's were on these two here. So this was my very next one after that one. So you can see increasing the live Z, or it's actually a negative number. Getting the hot end closer to the heat bed allows the layers to adhere to the heat bed better. So you can see there was some lifting there. So that was the next one. And then this one, I increased it a lot. Again, I'm sorry I didn't write down the heights on there. And actually, I do have the heights. I did start my journal of what the prints I'm doing and what kind of changes I'm doing with it. So that first one was negative 0.01, and then this one was negative 0.122, and then this one was negative 0.142, and I made a note that I think this is a little too low because actually you can see right here it kind of stringed in on itself. And there's some looks like it was just pressing into each of the other layers a little too close together there. So those were those three that I did, and then this is the first one that I did this morning with the LZ to 0.142, which I thought was too low, which was again this one right here. But this one did a lot better. Still looks like it's pressing a little too much to each other, but man, this is a smooth. I mean, I cannot get my fingernail to catch on any of those lines. So I printed this one today. You have the live Z of negative 0.142, and even the top layers look about the same, not much difference. I mean, if you were to try and tell the difference right off the bat, you probably really couldn't. Knowing which one's which, it's probably a little bit easier that way. But definitely had fun doing that. So the next print I tried this morning, got a little bit confident in how this machine was working, and the very next print I did was the tree frog. Now this is another print that comes in on the SD card, so very good quality here. So let me zoom. Let me focus on him up higher here. Here we go. So I showed this to my wife. My wife loves the little pads on the frog's feet here, which they're actually pretty good. I actually like it. Again, this is really nice and smooth. I kept the live Z at negative 1.42, I believe. Let me double check tree frog. No, I actually dialed it down to negative 1.22 to get this one, and I think that's what it's I left it out for most of my prints. Got a little bit, I don't know if you could see it in camera there, got a little bit of stringing. Let's see if I can point it out here. A little bit of stringing right here. A little bit of stringing right here. A little bit of stringing You can kind of see it looks fuzzy on the nose here a little bit of stringing over the eyes here. But man, you can even see the little nostrils. I think the camera's picking that pretty well. So definitely overall pretty fantastic print there. I'm pretty darn happy with that. The back looks fantastic. A little bit of weirdness on the groove over the foot, over the leg, here and here. Now I've done nothing to post-process these. I've just pulled this right off the print bed and set it right off to the side. Most 3D prints you're going to do are going to need some sort of post-processing. So, you know, overall, I'm really happy with this print. I don't know, Ray. It's the it comes on the SD card, already sliced. So I don't know what the resolution is. I think it's one of their showcase ones, so I'm pretty sure it's pretty high. If you go to Prusa's website and go to their support with their downloads, it talks about all the prints and what resolution they're at. So the next print that I attempted, actually the first one failed. So this is the Bat logo, the Batman logo that comes on the SD card again. And it was obviously, I stopped it before it even finished the first layer because I was getting all this stringing and over extrusion on these two corners here. The rest of it looked pretty nice, but because of all this, I didn't want to get it getting caught on the hot end or getting caught on the Pinda probe and ruining the print and possibly causing a big headache for me. So I stopped it. I didn't change anything. I immediately started the print over. I don't know what the problem was because as soon as I started it over, this is the print I got, and I got a finished one. Yeah, Ray, you know what? Actually, let me see something real quick. Let me see if I can find out for you. Sprinters.org. You guys can enjoy the Bat logo a little bit there for a second. I'll find out. Let's see, port. Bundled 3D models. All it says on the website, Ray, is it says a great showpiece or gift for your friends. Tree Frog is commonly used as a 3D printing benchmark. We prepared the file at 50 micron layer heights to show you what the printer is capable of. Print takes roughly 3 hours, 50 minutes, which, yep, 3 hours, 10 minutes is what it took mine. And for PLA at 50 micron layer height. Yeah, well, so what you've got keen eyes there, Ray. So let me zoom in on, focus in on this. So the edges of the Bat logo are curved up, and you can actually see on this point here. Let me see if I can get it to look really good on camera. There we go. So the edges are curved up. There's a good one there. So there's a bit of an overhang. This is the bottom where I'm pointing at right now, and this is the top up here. So they are curved. So this point here did no problem, but the sharp point for the tail of the Bat logo and both of the larger points did look like they had some lifting. This is PLA. So, I'm not sure what went wrong. This is again another one of those files that's pre-packaged on the SD card, and it definitely, you know, I didn't mess with the file at all. Just printed it straight from the SD card. In fact, you guys saw me put the SD card in last night, and it just I never removed it until this afternoon for something else. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. None of the fans, I watched this entire print for the most part. I mean, I got up to go do a couple of things. How long did the Bat logo take me? You know what? I didn't write that down. See, this kind of thing, gotta write down all these little things. But anyway, so, but overall, you know, it's a nice little print. You know, can't complain. You know, not too shabby on the corners here, but it did look like a little lifting happened. So after that print, the very next thing that I did, because obviously I've been messing with the Pinda or the Z height, I printed out something that can be found on Thingiverse and quite a few other people YouTube channels. This is a Pinda probe height tool. The whole point of this tool is that you, after printing it out, after building your printer, you print it out and then you can use it. You lower your nozzle down to touch this pad, and then this pad here is the height that the Pinda is supposed to be at according to Prusa. Now, I don't remember, and I'm going to measure this right now. I don't remember what the height difference is going to be, but so let me show you what the height difference is between the two. So, so the height difference of the nozzle pad is 2.03, and then 3.18 is the difference between the two. So you've got 1.15, somewhere around there. So I don't know what the height difference is supposed to be. Now, I haven't used it yet. I plan on probably doing that later on. I don't know if I'll do it on stream or not. Fussing around with that Pinda probe isn't fun to watch, I'm sure. But this is just one of those things that I saw another YouTube channel that printed this out and used it. Actually, Nillabean is the one I first saw use it, and I've seen a couple other guys use it too. I know other people have used it before Nilla, but Nillabean. Yeah, and if you've got a way to print it before you build the printer, this would be a good thing to start out with. I mean, it's kind of one of those things I wish I would have had. I would probably print at the highest resolution possible. The notes in the print don't say anything about what resolution to print it in or anything like that. But it's definitely a good tool to have. And then I got a little ambitious. I went ahead and printed the biggest print that I've printed so far, obviously. And I went and printed this. So let me pull the camera up a little bit so you guys can actually see what this is. So I have a smartwatch. I have an LG G-Watch R. It's a pretty old smartwatch now, but I love it. I've had it for at least 2 years now, I think. So this is a charging stand for my LG G-Watch R. So this is the charger base for the G-Watch, and this is my watch. Now, one of the first things I did with my watch was originally this had just a regular leather or plastic watch band on it. I got this military grade, I'm going to air quote the military grade watch band here that loops all the way around. Well, this charger wasn't designed for that, because this just sits flat on my desk or on my side table beside my bed and charges like that, and obviously it has to sit down on top of it. It's always been one of those things is every once in a while, if I'm really tired when I'm going to bed, I won't get it on the charger. So the whole point of this part is that you slide in your charger your charger base right here. You line up the USB cable port here. You stick that in there. That holds that whole base in place now. And then obviously I'm not going to have the wire pulling that way. And then I can now throw my watch on there. And it sits there, and the watch band hangs there. And it sits there. So let me see if I can get the tension off there. So yeah. So a nice practical print. My first practical print. So fantastic. Happy that I printed it finally. It's actually one of the things that I planned on printing after I got the 3D printer, but I did want to show some of the problems I had with this print, and I'm not 100% sure what happened. So when this print printed, it printed like this on the print bed, straight up and down, and you can actually kind of see some of the problems already. No, I didn't print with supports. It looks not too bad. It looks usable, but I'm going to show you some of the problems that I have with it. So let me bring the camera back down some so I can show you. So you can see it there now, some of the problems. All right. So right here, you see some layer separation. Again, this is PLA, so it doesn't need a whole lot of cooling. I did download this from Thingiverse. I use the Slicer Prusa edition, or the Slick 3R Prusa edition, or the Slicer PE, or whatever you want to call it. And all I did was I changed the infill and I changed the top and bottom layer type. So let me start with the top and bottom layer type and where I made the mistake here. So I wanted to try, I'd seen a couple YouTube videos that were talking about the concentric infills for the top and bottom layers and how nice they look, and I liked how they looked on the videos that I watched. But what I didn't realize when I was slicing this file, I did preview the layers. That's something I'm going to go over here in just a minute on when I'm talking about previewing the layers. But you can kind of see here where these concentric layers meet, there's a big gap repeating itself and down this row here. So when you're using concentric layers, you have to be very mindful of what your layer thickness is and what concentric layers you're doing. So concentric layers is for using it for infill is very particular. So maybe not something a newbie like me needs to try and play with too much. So that's the first thing I noticed. I noticed that on the first layer, because obviously this is the first layer right here, because this was the bottom. Now it's definitely still usable. Then printing up through the rest of the print, this all looked good. This all looked good. A couple little zits here and there, but that's nothing to scoff at. I did not see this side. Nothing huge on this side. It actually looks really nice. There are a couple little gaps here. I heard the hot end popping every once in a while. This is PLA. I know sometimes popping can happen when you're printing ABS if it absorbs water. What have you used before in S3D? Oh, concentric layers? Okay, yeah, sorry. I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah, so, and then I do have the honeycomb infill for the structure, which is fun, but it really made this print take forever. I mean, this print took a total of 5 hours and 17 minutes, but I had the infill at 20% honeycomb. But what was really disappointing to me was right there, and I showed you the back side of this piece already too. So, not 100% certain what that is. I haven't done a lot of research on it yet, but you can see it kind of started down here with one or two little spots, near here, but then it got a little bit worse. This whole entire layer had a bunch of pieces missing. It looks like there was a couple pieces missing there, and then an entire layer looks like it was missed there. Even the edges here started to look pretty bad. I am impressed with the bridging here. The bridging's not too bad. That's pretty good. You see here the same layer started to mess up as well, and then that layer continued onto the back. And again, this was printing away from me, so I didn't see all this while it was printing because of the orientation of my printer. But yeah, this entire layer, which does match with this layer here. I mean, it just looks like it almost completely missed this entire layer. So I don't know if maybe I wasn't in the room when this was finishing. Maybe the reel got caught and it wasn't able to extrude, because it kind of looks like under extrusion. But then you got these lines down here as well. Let me go see if I can get that focus down onto it right there. There we go. These lines down here that really, I mean, they have, there's a little bit of a matching. This matches up with those, but I mean, overall it's useful. I'm going to use it. There's no reason for me to print another one or anything like that. It's not something that I would give as a gift or anything like that. I mean, if you think it's wet filament, that's what I thought too, but this is the filament that I opened with the kit. And only opened it last night, and it's the same filament that I've been printing with, printing everything else with. So I don't see how it would have gotten wet, but can PLA really absorb moisture like ABS does? I've not heard of that before. I'm not saying it's impossible. I have no idea, really. But again, I did hear well, it sounded like to me the extruder popping. Like air, it was water expanding. So, but that's all the prints I've done so far. I thought since I was going to share all those prints, I'm going to start a print now, and I wanted to share what I was going to do. So let me switch over. Yeah, and you know what? Thinking back on it, the popping in the holes, because I was here for some of this part here. So I heard some popping when it was printing this piece here. But when I was watching this side, there was some popping too, but there's nothing wrong with that side. Zoom, focusing on that. Got a little bit of a layer separation there, or a little bit over extruding there, but nothing too bad. I think that probably matches up with, I don't know, it doesn't match up with anything on that side. So, but overall, you know, usable print. Feels solid, got good weight to it. I'm gonna start using it tonight. So what I'm going to make now is, I'm sure you guys have all heard of and sick of hearing about fidget spinners. Oh, I hear the collective oh already. So this is what I want to print next. This is definitely not a fidget spinner, although they call it the fidget stick. It has an official name. I can't remember what it's called officially, but it's basically an off-weighted stick. Either end is weighted more and the middle is hollow. So what I was going to do is I need to slice this, and I need to get it on my SD card, put it over in the printer. Oh, you've seen those sticks before, right? Yeah. So I've already downloaded this. So let me get Slicer Prusa Edition started up. So this is Slicer Prusa Edition if you've never seen it before. And in order to get a model in here, the first thing we need to do is we need to click the Add button. And I want to go to my fidget stick. You can see the other two prints that I've done, the LGGWR stand and the Prusa pin to height adjuster. So the fidget stick files and fidget stick STL. So we're going to open that. So there's our fidget stick there. So once you've opened an STL file, you want to make sure a couple things. This is already set, preset to the default of what Prusa's, you know, suggestion are for his filament. I'm going to be still using his gray filament here. So it's 0.5 millimeter filament, VLA 1.75 or 1.5 layer height. It's the original Prusa i3. I'm kidding with Z-Hop. I don't know what the Z-Hop means. I'm guessing it's talking about the live Z and everything. So what I do want to do is I want to go into print settings, and I want to go into infill. And this gentleman with this print was suggesting, if I'm not mistaken, he used 95% infill. I don't know if I want to do 95% infill. It's useful to make the ends more grippy to find a thin material. I don't know if I'm going to find anything. You know, I'm just going to see how it prints. It's a tall print. It's going to help me understand what's going on with that, the layer problems that I had with the watch stand. So we'll find out if I've got something, if it's filament or whatever. So I am going to bump my density. I'm going to take it up to 70. And I am going to keep it on rectilinear. Skirts and brims. Let's see. So a skirt is what gets printed around a print to keep it from, first of all, it helps prime the hot end, but it also helps keep the print from moving too much during the printing process. So I'm going to take it up to 3. Distance from opposites 2 millimeters. I like that. Skirts 1 layer. Yeah. Well, luckily it's just the top and the bottom. So yes, it still would take forever, but most of it's hollow. I'm a little worried about the middle being hollow, if I'm going to be able to bridge the inside. But if I'm not mistaken, he said that he didn't need any supports. He printed with PLA, 0.2 millimeter layer height. So actually, I might go to 0.2 millimeter layer height. 70 CPI bed, 200 C nozzle. I'm going to stick with the temperatures that Prusa has given me. The important part is print very high infill. I use that part since this makes weight on both ends. And with no material support. So there you go, with no material support. So we don't need any material support according to this gentleman. And he made this file, so put a berm around it since it's so tall. Okay, so let's put a 5 millimeter berm around it. Whoops, what did I just do? Oh, sorry. I have my numbers set as shortcuts to switch cameras and scenes. That's funny. All right, so I've got a 5 millimeter brim I'm going to put around there. I'm running the slicer on the same computer I'm streaming from. So that's hilarious. But thanks, Ray. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it is tall. So do you think 5 millimeter is going to be tall, enough of a brim? So should I turn skirt off? So I'll turn skirt off then. So let's see. And he was saying layer height, he was doing it at 0.2 millimeter. Let's check. Skirt and brim. It just says the brim we printed around each object on the first layer. So I'm assuming it's attached. We'll find out when I slice it. But I do want to take this to 0.2. Sorry, my camera is going to switch again. Because I got to tighten the number 2. That's hilarious. Hey guys, how y'all doing? Go screen and face. There we go. You guys can say hi to me too. There we are. Resize that so y'all can see everything that's going on. There we go. But so I don't see an option in here, Ray, to attach it to the edge on skirts and brims. It just says brim width. So is 5 millimeters enough? Am I missing something here in the slicer settings? I'll go back to infill. Cubic rectilinear is fine. Solid infill, revolver. Yeah, I've heard a lot about S3D. I haven't looked into it. I just know it costs. And I don't have a problem spending money on something, but if I can also get the same thing done for free, and I'm going to assume that most people are going to want some free software, so I'd rather kind of use this and reach more people. Where S3D, it looks like it's a little bit easier, but there's things in here in Slicer that S3D doesn't do. I don't know what they are yet, so I just have watched enough YouTube videos to see an opinion on both sides. So, but I'm going to go with that 5 millimeter skirt. No support materials. Yep, no support materials. Layers and perimeters. And I turned my layer height to 0.2 millimeters. First layer height is also 0.2 millimeters as well, on the suggestion of this gentleman here, because he said he put it at 0.2 millimeter layer height. I'm going to leave everything else for the temperature settings at the default 4. Which you can change here and here. So filament settings, filament, temperature, bed, cooling, everything like that. So I'm going to go back to the platter. Now that I changed all that, I'm going to hit slice now. So now that I've got that sliced, I can do a preview of it. So let me pull this into frame here. And I can pull down, you can see all of its hollow in the middle there. And then that is everything on the inside. So it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, Ray, looks like my brim is attached. And the green right there. The yellow is my outer layers, and the red is my infills. So there's the first layer, and then we just build up from there. And up and up and up. And it looks like a pretty darn good print. So I also like to look at the layers. This looks at one layer at a time. This is basically the path that the head's going to take. I thought about, I know that STL has a vase mode. I don't know if Slicer does. No idea. Actually, let me see. Does it? Print settings, advanced, overlap, flow, clip multiple parts threads. I don't see a vase mode. Output options. Anyway, so vase mode is where the extruder doesn't start and stop as much as everything else, or excuse me, as it does without the vase mode. Because obviously with round objects like this, if you start and stop somewhere along that perimeter, you think it does? Hold on. I kind of want to try that. Let's see. Help. Slicer manual. No search option, really? Alright, so I'm not going to worry about it. If I can't find it, I can't find it. General, custom G code, no. Extruder 1, no. Filament settings. Oh, they have another name for it. Okay, so it wouldn't be called vase mode. So let's do this. Sorry, my computer is way over here. And of course, I had to use a number. Slicer.org. It looks like they do. And is it called top solid layers option? Print basis from simple solid models. Here, so let me show you what I'm reading here. Screen index. There we go. Trick is to set top solid layers to 0 and infill density to 0 while you're solid. Just okay, so no. So I don't want to try that because then I need infill to be high. Maybe spiral. Yeah, so it doesn't look like it with this model because I need that infill. So they're saying you can trick it into doing base mode by not having any infill. So we're not going to do that. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Advanced. So, all right, so that's that. So I'm actually going to slice again because I don't remember if I made any changes. Oh, you saw it where? Did I miss it? So print settings, spiral. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's try it. Let's check that. The spiral base mode requires one perimeter, no top solid layers, 0 infill density, no support material, no ensure vertical shell thickness. Shall I adjust those settings? No, because I need infill. So good looking out, Ray. Glad you saw it. I didn't see it. It's underneath vertical shells right here, but I need this to have a lot of infill in it. So no, we're not going to do that. Appreciate it. Now we know. Knowing's half the battle. All right, so I'm going to go back to my preview. Just want to make sure everything looks good. Man, that is a lot of infill. Wow. That was going to take a while. So let me go back to the layers here. I don't know why, I just like this view. This is the path that the hot end travels for every layer. So you can see the brim, the outer perimeter layers, and the infill layers. And then we just keep going up, and you can see all of our infill layers there. There's a lot of infill. And then all the hollowness, that's not going to take very long. I am a little worried. I mean, it comes down pretty far. I'm a little worried about that translation right there. Goes from almost nothing, or from nothing to a lot. Now, he said that he needs supports, but that's a little on the crazy side. Guess we will see if that bridging will work. You see if he's got any other tips or tricks in there. You ready? Think so? I think so too. But I mean, you can see my screen right now. I am looking at the Gentleman's Thingiverse page, and he printed it PLA 0.2 millimeter layer height, 70 degrees Celsius PEI bed. With just that line right there, I'm thinking that he's using a Prusa i3 MK2S. I think he's using the same printer. I'm using at least an MK2. 200 degrees Celsius nozzle. He might be using a different type of PEI, and with material cooling fan on. So I think that's probably the secret right there. Yeah, worth a try. It definitely is. Let me see if make sure cooling, keep fan always on. Yes. Auto enable auto cooling. Yes. Fan speed minimum 85. Max is 100. Bridges fan speed 100. Disable fan for the first layer, one layer. Hey, we'll both be amazed. Yeah, definitely. Slow down if the layer print time is below, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I'm not into that advanced settings yet. So anyway, all right, so I'm happy with those settings. I'm gonna go ahead and hit slice now one last time just to make sure any changes that I may take. Go down through my print real quick, see if anything jumps out as wrong. Don't see anything. Okay, export the G code. Yeah, save. Now I've got to do something funny because the computer I'm streaming on does not have an SD card slot. So I've got to transfer it to another computer, which I already did, and then put it on the SD card that I'm using. Oh, just syncing up. Hold on. All right, there it is. All right. All right. So that just copied over. So the first thing I want to do is I want to clean off my print bed. So clean your print bed often. Just some regular isopropyl rubbing alcohol. I also went grocery shopping today, and I saw this 91% isopropyl alcohol. I don't know if that's going to be useful or not, but I grabbed it just in case. I might do a little bit of research before I try it on my nice new print bed. But figured if I don't use it for this, I can use it for cleaning other things. So let me clean this up some. And it just needs a nice rub down with the alcohol. Now I'm doing this while it's still cold, so it's not hot yet. I haven't started preheating yet. I do feel a couple little drips when it probes. Try to get those off. Take the nozzle off a little bit. Don't see anything on there. My OCD kicks in when I start seeing the streaking dry in different patterns, and I start seeing that pattern on there. But all right, so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and start preheating for PEI. Excuse me, PEI. PLA. So that is preheating. I'm going to grab my... oh, the 91% is what you use, Ray? Okay, good. I'll start using that. I don't have much left of this one, so I might finish up this one first. This one's not very full. So let me eject this card over here. Safe to remove. Slide my SD card. Now this is not the SD card that Prusa provided. I actually have that sitting right there right now. See it right there. This is an SD card that I had. It's only a 4 gig SD card, but I figured I want to keep the Prusa prints all over there nice and separate. I'll use this little 4 gig card for the prints that I want to transfer back and forth. So the card is inserted. So I'm going to go and hit my menu, go down to print from SD card, and there's the fidget stick G-code right there. So we're going to see how this starts. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to re-clean it using 91. I think I can do that real quick. Oh, maybe not. Oh wow. Well, especially now the bed's heated up. Oh, that's a lot cleaner. I'll wait until it gets... There we go. Yeah, that's a lot cleaner. So, starting out nice. Now, rubbing alcohol's always up on it. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Let's find out. It just says the active ingredient. And water. I'm not going to stream this entire print. I'm sure this print's going to take forever. And I work tomorrow, so I will be... we'll see how this starts out with the first few layers. And see what we can see. It's actually not that big. It's just tall. So we'll see what we can see so far in these first few layers. See if there's anything obvious. And if it looks good, then I will, leave it printing overnight. But Ray, I got your message and I responded to it. Talking about an enclosure. I told you I was torn between two different types of enclosures for this. My engineering and then creative side wants to do it out of the aluminum extrusions, no matter what brand they are, because that would look nice and clean and be modular. But then the cheap and dirty quick side of me wants to build it out of one of those IKEA lack tables. If you just search for printer enclosure IKEA lack, L-A-C-K, there's a ton of people that have built enclosures out of this lack table that's like $10 on IKEA. And it's big enough to go around the printer, and then you can find things on Thingiverse where you can put a mount for your filament spool on top of the table and have a hole drilled through, and they've got prints you can print and do all kinds of stuff to run the filament through into the printer housing. So I think the lack table is the easiest. And I'm thinking with what I have right now, the space that I have, the lac table is probably going to be the best idea. I also saw that they had a lac coffee table, and I have some space to my right behind me here. If I were to put the coffee table down and put the lac table on top of that, build the enclosure around that kind of setup, I'm thinking that might be a good idea, because then I can get a camera inside that housing, regain some of this workspace here, and still have access to the printer, be able to set up the cameras a little differently, getting it off my desk here, because this is taking up, the printer takes up about almost half my desk, as you can see in the, I mean, half my desk is right here. So if I could get it off the desk. The only problem is that this is also a guest room, and we blow up an air mattress here. And I don't know if there'd be enough room for the air mattress if I were to put another piece of furniture in here. But anyway, yeah, Facebook group for the lac table. Yeah. What do you think of those, Ray, the lac tables? Yeah, thought about that too. But if you go on Thingiverse, they actually, someone's made a printable part that allows you to put a fan, and it just encloses around the power supply and exhaust out one of the side panels that you would put on there. So it would help cool the power supply. I don't know how well that would work. I also thought about taking the power supply out, at least the power supply out. I thought about taking all the electronics out of the box eventually, but at least the power supply, because those cables are pretty long, and you could 3D print something to mount, because obviously the power supply is part of the structure in this case. I'm sure that I could find or come up with pretty quickly a mount to mount from the power supply unit's Y bracket. Yeah, the acrylic, going on the lac would look nice, but you could do acrylic on the aluminum extrusions as well. So I am torn, but the aluminum extrusion route would be expensive, and plus I hate cutting aluminum. So in order to make it a little bit more cost effective, you would buy longer pieces and cut them down. It is slightly removable. I just don't trust it 100% because it is bolted to the frame here, so you can see the screws there, and then it's bolted to the threaded rods with that little, what they call the PSU Y bracket. So I have this inkling that it's part of the structure, the superstructure, as an engineer might call it. Obviously, if Ray, you watched the entire build video as I built it, I was able to move it around, and it was pretty solid without the power supply unit bolted to it. But I just feel like it's something that if we removed it over time, maybe it might be a problem. I don't know. Yeah, I hate cutting acrylic too. Yeah, I haven't even thought about that. Cutting acrylic is like cutting glass. I do have a glass cutter, but no large work surface besides the one you're looking at to break the acrylic on. So let's see if I can get you guys down into the print area. Sorry, I'm gonna make you guys seasick here for a minute. Yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, Ray, I haven't seen any builds with the power supply removed as well. Um, so maybe that means that it's fine. Because, I mean, that power supply gets pretty hot on its own, and it has no active cooling in there. We wouldn't be making it much hotter than it already is. I mean, the inside of that enclosure, I don't think would get to a point. I mean, maybe I could do some research, or somebody's done it already, on the thermal limits for that specific power supply, and see if we might exceed that in that enclosure. I don't know. The other thing I was thinking about too is, since one of the main reasons why I want to make that enclosure is because I want to print with ABS. Not only do you need an enclosure for ABS to help control the temperatures so that it adheres, yeah, we need to find out how hot that power supply can get. Might do some research on that. Unfortunately, I don't want to move the printer right now. I can't see the sticker for what model number it is. It's probably online somewhere. But what I was saying is that I want to create an exhaust fan for the ABS fumes. And I've seen a couple people already create some exhaust filter and fan combinations that could be cut into one of the panels on the back side. And I've got this window right here that I could open either through this and open the actual glass and vent it outside. I think I talked a little bit about that yesterday. But definitely don't want that ABS fumes in this tiny little room. Especially because most of the time when I'm streaming, I'm shut in here. So that wouldn't be very safe. I don't think streaming with a ventilator mask on. So you won't normally print in ABS, right? Do you print with an enclosure in ABS? Yeah, I've already looked into, like, I actually started I've been playing around with Fusion 360 and found a small HEPA filter, pretty small for a vacuum cleaner, that you can get online for a free pack for like $15, using an 80mm fan that's not much different in shape and size than that HEPA filter. Or I started mocking up a Fusion 360 model to 3D print. So you have an all acrylic enclosure, okay. How do you have that built with 3D printed parts? Because that would be fun. Oh. So if the tip inside the enclosure never got above 42 degrees Celsius, I don't think that'd be a problem for the power supply at all. I mean, in the long run, I would still want to remove the power supply and electronics out of the case, just in the long run. But if it's not necessary right away, then obviously it can be avoided in the short term. That's not a bad thing. I guarantee that power supply is more than 40 degrees Celsius right now. I mean, it feels pretty hot right there. Yeah, I've heard a lot of success stories with enclosures with ABS. Definitely something that you want if you want a good ABS print. Now, something that I saw Millibean do that I had not seen before that I thought was pretty interesting is he made a little modification to his print bed where he got a layer of cork and he put that layer of cork between the print bed plate and the print bed itself. Just took the print bed off, put the piece of cork on there, cut the holes for the standoffs to push through. It was almost exactly the right height. Pushed it down. There was no warping of the bed that he could tell. All his prints afterwards, and it helped his print bed warm up quicker or heat up quicker, and it helped the print bed stay more stable. It looked like. Oh, you saw that cork video too, yeah. You know what, I meant to look up what a quitty is. I wrote that down and never looked it up. You said it's quitty X-1. Okay, so that's like almost a MakerBot clone. Yeah, it looks like a tiny little print bed. But that's cool though. It's already enclosed. Looks like is it a Bowden setup? $150. Yeah, so yeah, definitely a lot larger print bed on the Prusa. Okay, it doesn't look like it's a Bowden setup, so that looks like it's a direct drive. That must have been a pain cutting that acrylic for that. So just looking at the print now. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but that first couple layers look pretty good. Looks like I've maybe got a little bit of over extrusion in there. One of the things I want to do on stream coming up pretty soon. I use very thin acrylic, yeah, so it's a lot easier to cut. One of the things I want to do on stream here in the near future is do PID tuning for at least the extruder. The PID tuning is basically you measure a length, you make a mark from the top of the extruder head up 100 millimeters or 110 millimeters, and then you tell it to extrude 100 millimeters, and then you measure how much difference you have between the top of the extruder head and the mark to see how much, and that gives you your multiplier. Any lifting? I do not see any lifting. Nope, I see a couple of the layers look like they're over extruded a little bit. I might have my Z height layer a little too low. It looks like. See if I can get the camera lower. Good amount of the print is there now. Oh, come on. me see if I can get that to focus, because that is not focusing on there. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the silicone sock. Because it keeps the because I've noticed looking at the LCD screen a lot. Let's see if I can get this to focus. That's better. That the heat bed stays pretty constant instead of 55 degrees, and it tells you what it's at versus what it's supposed to be at. But the extruder head, it varies a lot. The extruder head right now is 205, 205, 206, 205, 207. It's dropped down to 203. Keeps going back and forth, the extruder head. So I heard the silicone sock's really good. So I have seen one or two people say it's not the greatest thing in the world, but I've had more people say it's positive, so I'll probably pick some up. I think the next thing I'm going to buy, I'm thinking I'm going to buy it tonight or tomorrow. So I was saying I want to do the enclosure for this printer sooner rather than later. I think I'm going to buy the multi-material upgrade because I know that that it consists of doing some major modifications to the printer, and I kind of want to do those modifications before I get it into an enclosure. So I want to account for those modifications. I don't think it's going to be much because I don't think it adds any height to the printer, but it does change the way the filament's fed in and things like that. And I want to be able to compensate, or at least accommodate for that in the enclosure. So to me, it makes more sense to get that upgrade done first. So I think I might order that tonight or tomorrow morning and during the day tomorrow. So definitely something I want to do. I think I will. And then of course, once I get that multi-material upgrade, I will of course live stream it. Try to do it in whatever the shortest time I've seen someone else do it, and probably not at that time again. I don't know. I don't think that multi-material upgrade is going to be something that takes all that long. So now we're already a good halfway through the bottom heaviest part of this right now. Yeah, so I've thought about ordering it when I ordered the kit. Yeah, I just don't know if I'm going to use a lot of flexibles. I may or may not. I may buy. I was thinking about one of the projects I want to do. Now, this isn't going to be anything anytime soon, but one of the projects I wanted to do was I wanted to take the core of what the Prusa printer is, using the heat bed, the electronics, and the basic design of Prusa. Basically taking everything that the Prusa is minus the frame. If this cracking will come up later when you're asleep, of course. Yeah, well. But taking the Prusa minus the frame and make it into an H-bot, I guess. Similar to your QD, QIDI, QD. I guess that's how you say it's QD. Where it would be an aluminum extrusion frame. Your Z, the bed would move up and down. I just always thought that's a better design anyway, with the Z moving up and down. And the extruder working off of a rail system, moving your X and Y axis up top, but still using, because if you think about it, really nothing would have to be changed with the electronics, because all the movement would still be the same. It's just rearranging where everything is. And that would allow me to build a system very similar to your QD and have an enclosure built into the printer already. If I'm going to do that anytime soon, I don't know. But it's definitely something I've thought about a lot. Yeah, that bottom cap piece is almost. Yeah, Ray. I mean, it's nothing. I don't think it's anything new or revolutionary, but it's definitely something I thought about. The only problem is that sourcing the parts on the Prusa end. Now that I own one of their printers, it's a possibility that they'll let me buy the parts. But you know, I like the ease of electronics and the ease of use and the ease of how the Prusa works when you're calibrating it. I'm just not a fan of the Curtison style. Hey, it works. I could tell you that I haven't ever gotten to work, and I think I mentioned it on the first stream. Very short, mentioned it very lightly. I do have another 3D printer called the Phoenix Easy. Oh, it's from a company called Easy 3D that's no longer in business, called the Phoenix 3D printer. And it was a Kickstarter program that I backed and got the printer through. And I could never get it to work because I could never get the Z height calibrated correctly. I would either be extruding in the air and doing nothing, or I would slam the print head down into the print bed and destroy the print head. I can't tell you how many print heads I went through with trying to get that thing calibrated. Never got anything printed on it, and just got sick of it because I could do nothing with it. And it's a huge machine. I mean, compared to the Prusa here, it's still Curtison style. It's a huge machine. Maybe one day I'll compare the two. It's back here behind me. That's why I keep looking back. No, I could never get it to print. Got it to work. Got it to move on all of its axes. Got filament to load. Just, you know, in calibrating it to make sure it was squishing the plastic down. I mean, I could literally take the electronics off of the Prusa, hook it straight up to that machine, and it would probably work flawlessly, minus the pin to probe. I'm using the Live Z. Yeah, it's sat right where this printer is right now, built on my desk for 2 years, and it just never got used. The funny story behind that whole thing is I actually have two Phoenix 3D printers. When I backed it on Kickstarter, I backed the kit, and I got the kit, and I built the kit. And that's when I mentioned from the building of the Prusa printer that I have a little bit of experience building the 3D printer, because I built that kit. And it is made out of 2020 aluminum extrusions, and uses a belt system and a lot of the same things that you see here on the Prusa, but it does use a counterweighted belt system instead of the threaded rod for the Z-axis movement, which I thought was pretty ingenious. Uses a full-size Rambo board. This uses a Rambo Mini. Very, very similar. So it discouraged me for a couple of years. It did. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Ray. So the reason I ended up with two of them was I was searching around randomly one day online, seeing if anybody had any updates to something I could do to improve to make it, and I ran into a company that found about a dozen in stock, fully assembled, and they were selling them for $140 shipped. So I was like, hey, why not? It's fully assembled. Maybe I built it wrong. Maybe not being able to get the Z-axis to work correctly was my fault. Let me get one of theirs. Let me get one of theirs that they built, and let me try it. and I ordered it. It was like 140 bucks, I think, shipped. Came to my house about a week and a half later, and I think that was a year and a half ago. So I immediately took the kit one apart. I have all the parts for that sitting in a box. Grabbed that one out of its box, put it down in its place, popped it on, plugged it in. One of the things that always irritated me about the Phoenix 3D printer was that I wanted to use an LCD, like is on the Prusa printer. I uploaded it into the code through the Arduino, into the Rambo, plugged in the LCD controller. I have bought 3 of those, different versions of the same thing, basically, from different manufacturers. I could never get the LCD to work, so I could never use the printer standalone. I always had to have it plugged in. And I always had to use Phoenix 3D's software, too. They had a special version of their software to 3D print, so slicing and 3D printing was all done through their software, and that might have been part of the problem, too. So I tried flashing a generic version of the RepRap firmware, using Prompterface to control it, using Slicer to slice files, and again, the Z-axis just never could get it. They used this weird screw and end-stop combination that allowed you to tighten or loosen the screw, and it would hit the end stop at the bottom. Yeah, so no, yeah, it was practice. But I'll tell you what, because I'm probably not going to do anything with that printer, I'm going to take it apart. And what that means is I've got quite a few lengths of aluminum extrusion and quite a few bearings, quite a few stepper motors, a couple of extruders left over. I could probably build that other printer I was talking about. Yeah, I never had the pre-built one to work either. Again, the hot end would either print in the air, not print anything, so it wasn't getting the plastic on the heat bed, or it would crash into the heat bed and ruin the nozzle. There was like one or the other. I could never get the Z height dialed in exactly. Now I've seen people when I first got it, the company was still in business. There was a pretty active community around it. I saw people who got it to work. So again, that's why I thought it was me building of it. So, but yeah, the pre-built one, never got it to build anything, because it would just keep crashing the hot end into the heat bed and ruining it, and it would cause clogs. I'd have to replace the hot end, adjust the Z back up, then it would print in the air. So I'd adjust the Z back down, and it would crash the hot end into the hot heat bed. So the major flaw was the Z calibration. I could just never get it right. That's why I was really happy when I was watching all the videos of this printer with the Pentaprobe and the live Z calibration. Sell on Craigslist. I think I want to use the parts, man. I think I want to use the parts. So that's funny you say that. The other flaw that they have, which is easy fix now that I've got a 3D printer especially, is they have the X-axis, instead of being moved up and down, excuse me, the Z-axis, the X gantry and the Z-axis, instead of being threaded rods, I mentioned it was belts. They have this complicated belt system that has counterweights on the other side. Moves 2 stepper motors that move the counterweights up and down, that move the X-axis gantry up and down. It's really interesting, but the anchors where the belts ended on either side of the printer were 3D printed and went into molded plastic parts. Well, there's so much stress on those 2 pieces that they liked to break, especially the left one that had all of the weight of the counterweights on there. That one liked to either pull the screw through, or it would break, and you no longer had tension on the belts, so you couldn't move it. I got it fixed by just basically screwing the belt straight into that plastic, or using something else to mount it up in there. I think I eventually used a piece of metal screwed through all the way through and bolted it through on my kit one. The pre-built one, they never broke. But I think I want to use the parts. I don't think I'll sell it. Because once you get bit by the 3D printing bug, it's pretty hard to not want more. It's like I've heard people talk about tattoos like that. Like, I don't have any tattoos, but once you get one tattoo, you just don't stop. That's not focusing. Just realized that's not focused. Let me see if I can get that to focus. Configure. Oh, wrong one. Oh, that's not at all focused. Never seem to have enough filament. Yeah, I can imagine. I need to order some more already, I think, myself. I think I got that to focus down on that part. At least when it's forward and you can see it the most. Right there. So it's already done with the bottom weight. So this print's going a lot faster than I thought it would. We are now on the hollow part. So I can already see where the start and stops are for each layer, kind of like what we were talking about. Yeah, it does look good so far. You can't see it on that side, but it's actually just out of the camera's view. It's right there. Let's see if I can. I don't know if you can see it on camera or not. I don't think you can. It's like right there, going up at an angle. It's where the start and the stop of each layer is. And it's showing a line, but that, I knew to expect that on a round object. Yeah, I can't make that random. I just didn't. I didn't even think about it, and I've got no problem with it. This is just kind of a test / showcase, please. Might take it into work and show it off to some coworkers. Yeah, I've got those that file set. So I might be able to just clean it up and file it down. In fact, that's what I wanted to do while I was waiting on this print a little bit. I wanted to take my file set and just file off some of the burrs of this piece for my watch. Maybe get something out of the way so I can see what's going on here. So. It's got these little, this is just a little flat one. So you can see that it's just a little flat file. It's going to help me take some of those extra little burrs off and these mist layers. Clean up the edges a little bit. Is it the most fantastic piece? But hey, with practice, it's only going to get better, right, Ray? That is looking pretty good. Oh yeah, exactly. Give your coworkers the bug. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember because none of my coworkers have a 3D printer or anything like that. I'm trying to remember. Too labor intensive to clean. What do you mean by labor intensive to clean? Talking about like all the little the stringing and stuff like that. So I tell you, the hole for the USB cord to go into, that looks super fantastic. I mean, the whole piece from here down just looks good. Yeah, I've heard about that. What do you think about that? I think it's called XTC ABS finishing, or I can't remember what it is, but it's basically what it looks like to me is it looks like almost a plaster or something along that lines that you coat ABS in, and it kind of it either slightly melts it or it fills in the gaps between the layers. Yeah, okay, yeah. So PLA is hard to sand. I have seen a lot about that. Filing it right now isn't too hard. I don't need to clean up much on this piece. Oh, so that stuff I described is mainly for PLA. Okay. I saw it pop up somewhere. Where did I see it pop up? I think Amazon popped it up on my recommended for you. You know, their algorithms, everything like that, based off your searches. Or maybe Google popped it up somewhere along the line. I can't remember now. Grabbing my X-Acto knife. I'm going to clean up one of these edges. So you said you use an acetone bath. Do you have a something specially built for that? Do you have a homemade remedy that you do for giving your ABS parts acetone a bath? Happy with that. Yeah, so you have a good setup for it. That's good. What do you do when you want to smooth something out but you don't want it to be shiny? Because I noticed that every time I've seen a part that's been treated with an acetone bath, it's always like super shiny, like glossy shiny. Yeah, I've watched a bunch of Maker Muse's video. He just has too many of them for me to catch up on. I mean, I've been watching them for a bit now, but I've not seen the acetone bath video. I'll have to watch that. Yeah, I can imagine you don't want to leave an ABS part in the acetone bath for too long because it will literally melt it. Oh, I forgot to mention, I should have mentioned this way earlier, um, that I did the firmware upgrade today. I don't know if you guys, if you remember yesterday that I mentioned whenever I opened the kit that it said it uploaded with firmware 3.0.10, and according to the Prusa website, the most recent firmware upgrade for this firmware version for this machine is 3.0.11. So I hooked up my machine via USB to my second computer here and used their firmware update software. Downloaded the firmware update from the website, of course. Used their firmware update. Took a matter of like maybe 5 minutes. I haven't noticed any huge differences. I don't remember what the differences are supposed to be. But just like anything else electronic that you use, you want to always be on the newest firmware. So checking their website constantly, watching out for news releases from the Prusa team about firmware upgrades is definitely something you should do. And their firmware update software is really simple to use. Yeah, Maker Muse is great. Watched quite a few of his videos. In fact, I think I was watching one of his videos a little earlier before I did all this. Yeah, actually, that's funny. So yeah, I was watching Bottleception about vase mode. Oh no, this is bottle made from recycled bottles, designed and 3D printed using Fusion 360 from Maker Muse. Yeah, and it, like I said, the firmware was really easy to update. This print's actually going a lot faster than I thought it was going to. I mean, it's been going for 47 minutes now. I'm thinking maybe it's going to take another hour or so. But overall, that's pretty fantastic. What I was kind of wanting to see. Let's see, I don't hear any popping. And we are past the point where I heard popping before. So I heard popping near the bottom of this print, about where I have my finger, and I know you guys can't see it that well on that little screen. But it's past that point there. Your Tinkercad's fun. It's basic, but very easy to use. Fusion 360 is awesome. I've been using some sort of 3D modeling CAD CAM program since I was 12 or 13, maybe 14. So I've always had some sort of tinkering with 3D modeling of some sort. Started out with using Oh, do you see? Okay, I think I see what you're talking about. Oh, it looks different. I can't see it really. You see, what's funny is that this side of the print that I can see from the other side, the camera's not on, looks beautiful. Looks absolutely gorgeous. I don't think it's the design. I think I see what you're talking about. I did bring the flow down to 98%. Or to 98 from 100. I'm guessing that's percent. So, I don't know if anybody else would be interested in that. It's probably nothing. Well, and again, this is just kind of testing things out. You know, I'm still dialing in the printer. Still want to do the PID tunings, at least for the extruder. You notice this is getting a little tight. I don't like the filament holder. But anyway, and that might be something that, you know, the Bowden design is a little bit better because the filament holder is not on the machine. It's off the machine, so you can have a little bit better designed filament holder. I know on Thingiverse they have a ton of different types of filament holders for the Prusa on and off the machine. But I definitely don't like this design at all. I feel like it's barely holding and it's really hard to adjust. I can imagine trying to adjust the different sizes of filament rolls. But going back to what I was saying, the extruder, so I like to know when things are moving and when they're not moving. So when I'm looking at the machine right now, you guys can't see it in the camera right now, but obviously you can see when things are moving. So you can see the print beds moving back and forth. I can see the belt underneath it's moving. You can see that the extruder head is moving left to right. I can see the geared pulley and the belt moving, so I can see all that's moving. One of the things, the bug me on my old printer that I did was the extruder. I couldn't see when the extruder was moving because it's hidden deep inside that machine. Now I can kind of come around and look through this little window here and try and see when it's moving, but the little teeth are so fine that it's hard to see. So what I did was the back side of the shaft is exposed on the front of the extruder head here. So I just took a permanent marker and went from the middle of the shaft out a little black line just to show where it was. And I can now sit here and watch that little black line rotate around. Yeah, Ray, I agree. There's lots of good ones on Thingiverse. I think once I do the multi-material upgrade, obviously I think that one comes with a better filament holder anyway, because the 4 Bowden design motors, or the motors for the Bowden design are up there. But yeah, so I can watch it. I'm watching it rotate and retract, rotate and retract. Gives me that visual confirmation that everything's working the way it should be. So yeah, we're at 41% done already. What was that all about? That was weird. And I don't know why I was just thinking about this. I don't know where I put it. So one of the next projects I think I'm going to do, just because I think it's really awesome. I don't have it near me, I don't think. Is I have one of those little, yeah, some of those were strange moves, right? It was just went, you saw that too. I wasn't crazy. But so, I have one of those little endoscopes. So it's one of those, like, you know, it's a very stiff, long wire with a very small camera on the end with some LEDs around it. And it's usually meant for like looking into drains and things like that. I think I got it for like 15 bucks online or something like that. So it's not very expensive, but it's basically a microscope. And I was searching around on Thingiverse earlier today, and I saw someone had made a mount, and you basically remove the two bottom bolts for the extruder fan, and you put that mount and you use longer bolts, slide it in, and it's a mount for that camera, and you slide the camera into the mount, and it basically is looking right at the extruder head. And I just thought, for myself, that would be great, just to be able, instead of having to sit here and try and look around the extruder body and the fan. That'd be great. And when I'm doing streaming like this, that would be fantastic to have as well, instead of this kind of camera view where the parts move back and forth. Even if I were to make a mount for the camera to be constantly focused on the part and move with the bed, you know, it's far away. You're not getting to see it extruding. I just thought that would be a great idea. So I'm just wondering if I can print that out of PLA because of how far away or how close it is to the heat bed. And I put my finger here right now, and that's decently hot right there. It's not that hot. Oh, but right, you have an endoscope too? Yeah. They're fun. I also have one of those cheap little digital microscopes that are similar to that. Got that a couple months ago, and of course the first thing you start doing is, like, you know, zooming in on your hand and finding scars and, you know, looking at all the imperfections in your hand. And I looked at the surface of this desk, and I already knew it was a simulated wood surface, but then that little digital microscope gets down to the printed circles. It's inkjet printed, basically. So those things are fun to play with, but I really think it would be great to have mounted on the printer. Not surprised, Ray. Not surprised. I guess so. I tell you what, that the Qt printer that you have, I when I looked it up, you know, it was less than $500. That might have been something I would have bought at one time in the past if I wouldn't have run across the Phoenix 3D printer. So I think the Phoenix 3D printer, I think it was for the kit. It was $3.99 for the kit, and for I printed them out for my microscope too. Thought it also came with one. Yeah, so the microscope, it comes with this little junky, what's supposed to be a weighted mount, but it's a piece of junk. But the endoscope, I think, would be awesome to have. I mean, I thought about the microscope too, but the microscope's big compared to the endoscope. I think I got the microscope. You probably even have the same one. I don't think there's many versions of that. Oh, I'm knocking stuff over. Where did I put it? Yeah, there's the microscope. So, is this the one you have, Ray? It's probably the same thing, right? This little mount right here is just junk. Not very heavy. Yeah, the QD for my look. Yeah, my I wish I could find my endoscope right now. It is fairly stiff, and you can kind of twirl it up on itself. It's got a longer cable. I thought I had it in one of these drawers, but I guess not. Let me just take these drawers out. They have become a mess. I'll find it. And again, the thing that worries me the most. Yeah, I like the microscope. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. Especially because I'm sure once my girls get old enough to appreciate the sciences, having things like that and 3D printer are just going to help encourage them to be more interested in the sciences. That's kind of one of the side benefits of doing all this, and kind of why my wife is letting me do all this, because you know, she knows that, you know, getting our girls into the sciences and engineering and things like that is a really good idea. So having these kind of things already as they're growing up and getting them used to it's going to be nothing but a good factor in their lives. So yeah, we're already at 47%. I'm not going to stay up for the rest of this, how much I would like to. But I didn't think it'd be this far along. I'm tempted to, but I've got work in the morning. And I gotta get the oldest little girl to school. Well, daycare anyway, it's not school. I do see some layer problems on this side. I don't know if you guys can see them as much. Yeah, not so much on that side. Why is it doing that? You know, I'm gonna go back to the STL and look at that. What is that? It's like doing 4 little dots every once in a while. Ray, are you part of both the Facebook groups, the official and the owners club group on Facebook with the Prusa? Oh, I do see them. I see them. There they are. I figured out what that is, Ray. So what that is... yeah, I think it is a slicer problem. So I found one. Let me show you what's going on here. So let me... Okay. I don't have one that has that screen in the print, so we're going to have to go away from the print for a minute there. Okay. So I'm hoping that you can see that. Let me zoom in on it. Can I zoom in on it? Yeah, I can. There it is. So you see right there? And right there? it looks like it was trying to do some infill between the outer perimeters, the inner and outer perimeter. And it's not doing it on every layer. So you see there was another one popped up. Yep. And there's another couple more that popped up. So I see what it's doing. It's basically doing the inner outer perimeter and then little dots of infill. So that's interesting. I wonder if, you know what that might be? That might be more, instead of being a slicer problem, that might be a problem with the model itself. Yeah, I guess it's okay. It's not a huge issue, I don't think. But that might be a problem with the model, where the model is maybe a little thicker right there. And that's why it thought that it needs an infill in there. I don't know. I didn't create the model, obviously. I downloaded it from Thingiverse. You know, it could be a problem with, you know, the model being uploaded online and then downloaded and then, you know, well, zipped, uploaded, downloaded, unzipped. Yeah, so we'll blame the model. No offense to the guy who made this. Great job. But we'll blame the model. So let me go back to the print going in progress. I wonder if I can turn the autofocus back on. Oh yeah, no, autofocus does not want to work that close. What did I just do? Where is it? Yeah, you can see some layer issues. I wish find that endoscope. Alright, so let me start my log for this. So this is the fidget stick. I didn't change the live Z, so the live Z is at 0.137. It did turn. Where did I turn down? I turned down flow. To 98, about halfway through. Perfect. So this is my log right here. Just got this little journal, and a lot of videos that I've watched said it's a great idea to keep a journal, especially when you do stuff like I turned it, you know, turned the flow down about halfway through the print. That way, if I see any problems about halfway through the print that occur, I can kind of see, got a record of my live Z through all my prints. I also know that I'm only using the PLA, the silver PLA from Prusa. For all these prints, I would log if I changed anything. It's like those Mexican jumping beans. Yeah. At first, when I first saw them, before I saw any videos of them, I thought they were kind of like the, I don't know if you remember the Weeble Wobbles. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. That you could tilt them over, but then they would always pop up back standing up, but they only sit up on one end. I thought that this was kind of similar, where it was super weighted on one end and not the other, and no matter how you knocked it over, it would always want to weight back to the other end. I didn't realize until I started watching videos and looking at this part that it's weighted on both ends, and it will fall over. It's half a game, I guess, where you knock it over and you gotta knock it over enough to where it stands up and you can catch it, or you gotta knock it over at just the right amount of force so that it lands on its end, but it won't always land back up on its end. And of course, that got me thinking, could I make one that always stood up? Looked exactly like that, but it would always stand back up. I haven't thought about how that would work, but besides super weighting one end or the other. But just what goes through my head whenever I start seeing stuff like this. Maybe this is the next craze. The fidget spinners have come and gone. I know they're not gone, but they're on their way out, especially with all the problems that all those imported ones are having with, like, they destroyed so many tons of them in Germany because of problems with the plastic and all those fears of the plastic being bad or whatever. So those things were probably on their way out the door. Maybe this is the next fidget spinner, the fidget stick. Not quite as annoying. Although I do have fidget spinners. I have 2 of them. Nothing fancy, just little dumb ones. And no, I didn't print them. Had them long before I had my printer, obviously. Oh. It's printing out of frame now. Sorry for all the jittering. Just want to make sure you guys can see what's going on. So yeah, you can see some layer issues there. Nothing huge, but he'll not admit to owning one. So I'll take that as you own one. I bought one like 9 months ago, 10 months ago. I even bought ceramic bearings to upgrade the middle bearing so it spins faster. I'm a fidgeter. I mean, people that work with me, they get annoyed because I like to click pins. So here. This isn't a good pin to click. This is one of the ones with the buttons on the side. I don't like these pins. But this is the ones we use at work, so I don't click them. But if I've got one of those regular ballpoint pens that just click, 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 I mean, I will just click it, not even thinking about it, or my leg will be sitting there pounding or something along that lines. So I'm a fidgeter, and I'll tell you, those fidget spinners, they definitely help with that clicking, and they don't make that annoying clicking noise. But then they became a fad, and now they're kind of passé. Especially with all the problems they have. I don't remember where I got mine from. Mine may be dangerous for my kids. I don't let them play with it. I was always scared they'll pop out one of the bearings and get hurt with that. I have 2. I have an all-metal one, and I have a plastic one. The all-metal one's the one I put the ceramic bearing in. And they're fun. I mean, I still play with it at work. Got it in one of my desk drawers, and if I've got a fidget coming on, I'll grab it instead of a pen and start spinning it. I thought about creating a different type of fidget spinner. I saw someone, I watch a couple of those CNC channels where they, CNC, steel, aluminum, metal, things like that. I can't remember what channel it was, but he created one that was more block shaped, and it had two bearings, so it was a little bit thicker, and you could grab the bearings, and then it had little ridges on each of the corners of the block that you could just grab and just spin it in your hand. And I think it'll be a little bit better for me, because it's not the spinning and watching it spin thing that really calms my fidgets down. It's the act of actually doing something with my hand. So I kind of always want to grab it and then start spinning it and spin it some more and spin it some more. But if you ever play with a fidget spinner, you can't keep doing that, because then you'll stop it and knock it the other way and stuff like that. So I think this print's looking pretty good. I mean, we're at 59% already. I'm really interested to see how this bridging goes. I really want to see the bridging now. But we are starting back up. We're already at the widest point of the cylinder, and it's now starting to taper back down. I don't know if I want to stay up and watch it or not. I can't get my mind off of where I put that endoscope now. It's gonna kill me. Yeah, the part cooling fan looks like it's on full speed. I think there's some more of those infills. That's just hilarious to me. Yeah. Oh, so you're watching on an iPad? I constantly have problems typing on devices. I was actually on a work conference call on a device, and it was a one-way conference call where the boss was videoing to us and we were just watching, but we did have the live chat, and we were saying something about tape, and I accidentally typed rape and sent it to the whole team. I'm been working with this same team, most of them, probably about 95% of them, for the past 7 years, so they all know me really well. But I got quite a few phone calls from coworkers about that. You've been watching printers all day today. I thought about streaming my prints constantly. I would want a better setup than this. I think maybe a mix of like an Octoprint setup with a camera mounted to the front of the bed, showing the full view of the print and the endoscope. I think that would be a pretty interesting setup. I've not seen any videos of the endoscope showing the actual print happening at that time, and having the Octoprint set up would mean that I could an Octopi. Yeah, there you go. Would mean I could check on it while away and stop it if anything happened. So I think that would be, maybe kind of interesting. Besides the cameras and not having an Octopi, which it's easy to get. Not having the camera mounts, which I can fix that. Although I'd like to print them out of ABS uh, because they're going to be near heat. My streaming computer is my personal laptop that I carry with me. So when I go to work, I bring it with me. It basically goes wherever I go, besides grocery shopping. I don't want to leave it here streaming all day long. The other laptop that I have isn't strong enough to stream, in my opinion. I am contemplating buying a new desktop. My old desktop was burnt out a while back, and I haven't had a need to replace it until now. So I'm thinking about buying just a dedicated streaming desktop computer. It'll also help me with my camera problems. But so you use it as a monitor. You don't control the printer with it. Yeah, I thought about it. I think that'd be a good idea to have it set up to control the printer so that, you know, if you're monitoring it and a print fail happens while you're monitoring it, or you monitor it, you know, not too long after you see a print fail happen, it could really mitigate a ton of these telegraph notes and just photos. That's a good idea. Just have it send you a photo update every so often, like maybe every 10 minutes. Just a text or an email. And you can see how the print's doing, making sure it's not failing. But if you got a photo with a failed print, how would you stop it if you weren't anywhere near the printer? Okay. I'll take you up on that, Ray. I think the octopi is probably something I'm going to do in the pretty near future. It is getting late. We are getting so close to that bridging. We're getting so close to that bridging. You get your ass home and stop it. The problem is that I work about 45 minutes away from home. So if I were to set a print up while I was on my way to work, yeah, I looked it up. Yeah, it cost me about $75 plus a couple printed parts. Yeah, I was looking into that. So I think I saw the kit online. They had the Raspberry Pi board and the Raspberry Pi camera for like you're saying, about 75, maybe $85. And then I could just print out the case, the mount for the camera, hook it all up. And I was reading one of Joseph Prusa's blogs from the past, and he actually uses an Octopi setup on his printer farm. And I didn't realize until I read that same blog that he actually cycles his built. So when a customer buys a built Prusa, he cycles them through the printer farm. So there's at least 10 hours of printing on each printer before it goes out to the customer on the pre-builts. So some of these parts that I have on my printer were quite possibly printed on a printer that somebody now has in their home. Get some of those infill spots again. Well, I need to look at something real quick. I can't get that endoscope off my mind. Trying to forget about it, but I can't. So I'm curious, Ray, if you've already got an octopi set up, why don't you? Yeah, I'm starting to get really tired. But I was about to ask is if you have the octopi and the camera set up, looking at your printer already, how come you don't put Octoprint on there and get it controlling the printer? At least for the whole, stopping it if a print error happens. I mean, isn't it just a matter of setting it up on the software side of things? You don't trust the software. Okay. Can't blame you there. No, I used to be a programmer. That's awesome. Yeah, I've never ever been a programmer. But so what languages did you write? Did you code? Mini. Yeah, I never got into programming. I've always been more of a hardware guy. I did recently start trying to take some online classes from one of those online places where you pay like a certain amount of money for the entire course. You just get a certificate when you end on Java, but keep getting distracted from it. Oh no, I remember when the computers used to fill large rooms as well. I was very young, but I do remember that. I remember my first i3-86 and i4-86 computer. I remember the first Intel Pentium computer. I remember the first Intel Pentium chip. that had a floating point error. Remember back when Apple had RISC-based processors. Yeah, I've been in computers for a good chunk of my life. Yeah, maybe. My first earliest memory of a personal computer is the TI, the Texas Instruments, I think it's the TI-84 and the Commodore 64. Those are the two ones that I remember having the most and playing with the most. See, I didn't have any Apples back that far. Don't remember. I never had it. I never owned an Apple computer. Used them at school a lot because, of course, that's where they did a majority of their businesses with schools. That's actually when I started doing 3D modeling. Never had a Commodore. Yeah, it was a kid's computer, in my opinion. It's really what it was designed for. Even the TI-84 was more suited towards kids. Oh, there's the bridging. I see it. Do you see it? Is that bridging or is that stringing? That might be stringing. Never mind. I got too excited. That's stringing. Getting some errors on the layers there. I might have to stop this print. Yeah, I'm going to let it keep going. What's going on there? Something wrong with the temperatures? Yeah, but those layers aren't... Don't stop it. No, I'm not going to. I thought that was the bridging, but it's not. Yeah, it looks like it's recovering. Because the layers above it are going down. I have a strong feeling we're about to hit some of that bridging. Yeah, I mean, we've already gone this long into it. Why stop it now? Why not just let it finish? I mean, unless it just completely fails and starts printing in the air or getting caught up on the hot end or the penda or something like that, I don't see why. You're right. I overspoke there. I spoke too quickly there. So, thinking about my layer separations on that print that I had not fail, but I had some problems on. Well, above that point, and I'm not getting that same. But I wonder if the problem that just happened there is what happened internally here, where the layers got loose inside somehow. Yeah, because that recovered pretty nicely. Yeah, it's weird, right? Why that stringing happened all of a sudden. I mean, I was watching it and the print head never took that path that those strings went across. It's just like it was under extruding it. You know what? I'm going to turn that extrusion or the flow back up to 100. You know, that's probably going to look like, once all said and done, is that's going to look like an extra one of those little, you know what, that may have even been, you know, okay, so you know what that was, and I don't know why it did it there, but didn't do it on the bottom. So there's those 4 ribs. So you've seen that before. So there's those 4 ribs that are on the bottom of the print. The top 2 ribs are in the hollow section, and the bottom 2 ribs are in the solid section. So that is the first of the 2 ribs in the hollow section, and I'm wondering why it's doing that stringing in that little rib. It's interesting. Oh, I think we're getting to the bridging. Maybe. No. I think we need to get to another bridge first. Another bridge, another rib. Oh, nope, it's bridging. We waited long enough. Oh, it does bridge at that. Okay, so at that rib, it's bridge. That bridge is looking pretty good, Ray. Can you see it? I mean, from what I can tell, it's working. Oh, nope, this side didn't make it as much. Yeah, the 2 furthest sides, the smallest sides, aren't making it that well. But this is going to reinforce it here. How wide is it? Not sure. Don't want to mess with the part too much. So the smallest diameter on the bottom looks to be about 23, 24 millimeters. Yeah, I mean, after the first bridge was a little messy, the second bridge not too bad, and now it's cleaned up really well. So obviously you're never going to see that bridge inside there at all. Right, if I had to guess, I would say what it just bridged was probably about 20 to 22 millimeters. So a non-supported 22 millimeter bridge, can't really complain that it didn't do that shabby. And what I put that infill at, what, 70%? That's actually printing the infill pretty darn good. I put it at 60 or 70. I put it at 70. 70.2 millimeter layer heights, so that's not that bad. Yeah. Yeah, the part fan, I can visually see that it's running. And the fan speed's at 100%. Yeah, in the menus it says the fan speed's 255, and that's the highest it goes. So I don't know what that 250. Really thought this print was going to take a lot longer. So I think I figured out what that problem is. Again, I think it was a problem with the model. So I'm going to switch back to the screen with the slicer view here. Away from the print for a second. So this is the slice that I did. And so going, oops, what am I doing? I'm grabbing the wrong thing. So going from the bottom up, this is all the hollow. We found those little random infills. All right, Ray. I'm still gonna talk to myself for a few minutes. I might stay up for the rest of it. But what I noticed was once I get to that point where that first upper ridge is, the walls start to get thicker, and then we have an infill line, a single infill line. Goes into that ridge and then comes back out, gets thinner, and then infill line disappears and becomes dots again. I think that stringing that I got in the middle there was either the inner perimeter or the infill line just not getting laid down quite right because of the difference in thickness. So and a couple little zits, looks like over extrusion, and the start-stop lines that you would normally get from a print like this. But let me switch back to print view. But Ray, yeah, man, thanks for joining me again, my friend. I appreciate it. I'm probably gonna go to bed too. It's probably only maybe like 20 or 30 minutes left on this, but that's a long time for me. So I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, I think it's the model error again too. You're right. But I think I'm gonna go to bed, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. Ray, I will post a picture of this on Facebook for you tomorrow. I probably won't be streaming again until next week. I have a pretty hectic next couple days at work. But I will definitely give you guys an update. You never know, I might randomly stream here and there if something big happens. But I'm going to try to get online and stream what I'm doing either on Monday during the day or Tuesday during the day. So appreciate you. Catch you guys later. Be kind to each other and stay safe out there. Thanks for joining me.